Hey, what's up, girl?
What's going on? Take two.
I know, right? So behinds, we like rewinding, but we are here in the same square.
In the same square,
today.
not separate squares.
So we in the same space today, and I am Laverne Badger,
and I'm Natalie Hayden,
and
we are
exposed. Hold on.
Oh boy, exposed. The podcast. Yes.
So
yes, welcome to another episode of Exposed the Podcast. We have a great. We say this about every guest.
We say that about every guest and every topic,
guest,
right?
Every guest is really dope and amazing, though. Especially this year, we have a specific intention. We have you in mind. When we say you, we have whoever that listener and viewer is. We have you in mind when we thought of this person and said, "Oh my God, she will be perfect to come and share her light with us." So, Laverne, who is this woman? Who is she?
So, who this woman be, Hoppo, is Miss Jameeka Green Aaron. Now, let me just kind of brag on her a little bit. I met her through Richard, my husband. She is part of the National Urban League Young Professionals family.
Rooting for them.
Yes. But Miss Jameeka has done some amazing things as she climbed the ladder. And so Richard was like, when we were talking about some amazing women and who we should reach out to, and he was like, Jameeka just did this, and this. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let's see what Miss Jameeka has done.
Yeah.
So let me introduce to you Jameeka Green Aaron, Chief Information Security Officer. Chief, I feel like I should be saying something else, but I'm not. But I'm not.
We're not gonna say it.
So come on up in this room, Miss Jameeka.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being open to talking with us and sharing this space with our listeners and viewers. We're so privileged to have you with us today.
Yes. So Natalie just met you, but I have met you, and Richard talks about you all the time. It's only a few female women that Richard can talk about and not get in trouble with.
My first question, I was like, are you married? Because she's gorgeous. Right. I'm like, Jesus, she's beautiful.
And she is taken men and women. We
yes.
She's taken. But outside of being beautiful, she's extremely smart and driven. And so that's why we titled this Climbing the Ladder to Success, because we're still on our journey of it being Women's Month. And as you know, we're continuing to No More Mean Girls. So we wanted to kind of give you a moment to pat yourself on the back. Let us know a little bit about the professional Jameeka, and then some of the Jameeka that, what do you like to do?
Sure. So I was appointed Chief Information Security Officer at a company called Auth0, which is a startup. But we actually were recently acquired, and that we're still working through that process. And what the Chief Information Security Officer's job is, I'm responsible for the holistic approach to cybersecurity, how we handle it internally, as well as I'm a spokesperson for the company externally. And because we are in the identity management space, we manage logins for things. We're a developer-centric product. And so my job is to make sure that people are comfortable with our product. So that's what I do professionally. I've been in cybersecurity and technology for almost 23 years. And that time has flown by because it has been a lot of fun. And so that's kind of my professional background. I am married. I've been married for almost 9 years. We got married on Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve in 2012. And we threw a big party because I think work hard, play hard is definitely one of my mantras. Yeah, and then I think I have wanderlust. I've been traveling, for a really long time, almost all of my adult life, and so normally I would be traveling, but COVID has kind of put the kibosh on that, at least for a little while. But I've got some big plans to do some more traveling this year and in the years to come. That's kind of my first love, and then outside of that, I'm really outdoorsy, so I love the beach, I love hiking, I love being outside as much as I can, and just
Breaking all them
being,
language barriers, right? Because
yeah, just
we trying to be outside with nature, right?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love nature, so I can definitely relate to the wanderlust and
yeah, just out there, just be out there.
Yeah, that's not my ministry.
No,
It's not meant for me to be outside like that. So you're not a stranger to being a chief of anything. You've held that position in different areas and different departments and organizations, correct?
I have, and it's funny that you use the word chief because I actually became a chief in the Navy.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it's interesting to hear myself be called a chief again because I got out of the Navy in 2007, and so it's been many moons since someone has called me a chief, but it resonates with me because I was a chief petty officer in the Navy, and then went to Lockheed Martin, and then have kind of gone on there. But it's good to be back.
So you were built
It's
for
good to
this,
be back.
basically. You were built for this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, this journey has been one of the things that, because I was really emotional last week. I'm glad you guys didn't try to talk to me last week because last week it was like both extremes, really, really extremely excited, but also really emotional about the process and the journey that it took to get here, and really like saying to myself, no, you made it. Like, not in a sense of what other people say I've made it, but in a sense of where I wanted to land and what my dreams were for myself. This was it.
and you deserve it. So here, let's talk about that a little bit. Even when you work hard, do take all the necessary steps to be successful. You were in a moment in your head about, should I be here, or am I ready to be?
Yeah.
Are you good enough?
Am I worthy
What
of it?
do you think
Yeah.
drives that in us?
So, I used to, up until last week, I thought that I had imposter syndrome. And I think it's something, imposter syndrome is something that we hear a lot, particularly with Black women. And this pervasive thought that even though you've done the work, when you land or while you're trying to land, you're just not good enough. And there was an article that came out in the Harvard Business Review last week. One of my colleagues at my new job sent it to me, and it basically said, stop telling women that they have imposter syndrome. What has happened is we are a product of systemic racism and oppression. And so we've always been good enough.
Yeah.
And I think that, imposter syndrome is one of those buzzwords that's been floated out there to pacify us.
Yeah.
And to make us believe that we're not good enough is internal. It's not internal, it's external. This is systemic racism is a thing that's been done to us. And so you're not getting the job because they don't want you to have the job. You're not getting the job not because you're not a good fit, but because you are not of a certain demographic. And I think it's a bitter pill to swallow, but if you swallow it the way it's meant, then you're undeterred.
That's right.
Right.
If I have imposter syndrome, then that's on me. I need to correct something with me. But if I'm dealing with systemic racism and oppression, that's on the system to correct. We didn't create it, and we're not going to be able to dismantle it.
Right.
And so I think that yes, I do have that thought, but I read that article and I let it leave my mind really quickly. Like, you've always been good enough, and we all are. And I think that that's a shift that we have to start to make, and we really have to start to believe that the systems that have been put in place are tremendously effective to keep Black people out. And so we have to start to know that those systems are in place and learn to navigate those systems. And ultimately, me learning to navigate those systems is how I landed where I am today.
Wow. I think that's awesome. So as we unpack this a little further, it just makes me think about, how many of us are thrivers as women and as men, and of color. And what would you say or suggest to that woman that is, that may be struggling with, that term that's thrown out there a lot, the imposter syndrome, and how should she or he do their best to like navigate through these arenas where it's set up for us to fail and set up for us to like feel a certain way and to push beyond that threshold of limitations? What do you suggest?
I think there's a couple of things. I think one of the things that I didn't try to do was I never tried to be a member of the boys club. Not a boy. So, I never tried. I always, had kind of this completeness of who I was, and I knew that I wasn't that, and so I wasn't going to try to squish myself into a box that I didn't fit in. But because of that, I also didn't have the network at work sometimes. So I created my own. 2012, 2013, maybe it's a decade or so ago, I went to a conference, a women's conference for women in cybersecurity. And there they had an author, I think Pamela Reichman, and she wrote this book called The Stiletto Network. And she had done all this research around women, successful women, and how they had attained that success. And it's just a really light book. It's not a lot of, it's not something you have to deep dive into. But she basically said women who have there's small tribes of women, like 5 to 7 women, that are made up of your friends and colleagues. And there's not really any rules for it except for that you support each other. And I think it said you have to take 1 trip a year. So I took that idea and looked at the women around me, and I created a network like that for myself. When I tell you that these women are absolute powerhouses, there's just 5 of us. We've been, a tribe for probably we've been friends for a long time, but we've been, I think, a collective for about close to 10 years now. We take the trip. We have Lux Christmas. We call it Lux Christmas because we get to buy each other expensive Christmas gifts.
That's nice.
Every year we do a gift exchange, but also they are just my day-to-day confidants, and people that I rely on.
Let's shout them out really quick.
So it's to Shonda Brown. She is actually a VP of engineering at Sempra, and San Diego Gas and Electric in San Diego. Lisa Valle is a IT senior manager at the Boeing Company. Akila Wallace is a chief of staff to the one of the CFOs of Boeing Defense, also the Boeing Company. And then Dr. Ebony Williams is at UC San Diego, and she's a PhD in chemical engineering, and she leads a leadership program that is focused around students as they travel through their journey remotely. And so that's my squad, that's my tribe, along with my sister. My older sister, who's a teacher in New Orleans. They have had my back through thick and thin.
Wow.
And these are all African-American women?
They're all Black.
Wow. So that is amazing. That's why I wanted you to shout them out, because we want to speak their names into the atmosphere and acknowledge the hard work that women do on a daily basis to get where they are. And I love the fact that you said that you weren't trying to fill in the shoes of a man. You were just trying to walk in your own path. So let's shift a little bit. So you have the tribe.
Love a tribe.
Yes, Natalie, she has a tribe too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you have your tribe, you have your support system, you have the education, the drive. Let's flip it to say, when did you when was it not going the way you thought it should go in regards to support? So we talk about, do we support each other as women the way that we think we should, or that we talk about that we do, but we don't always do that. Hence the no more men behavior.
Yeah.
Getting to that level that you're at now, have you come across any of that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of heartbreaking to know that a part of my story When I was making the transition from kind of senior management to director level, I changed companies, and my boss was a Black woman, and she was the worst boss I ever had. And, it was heartbreaking because it was personal to me.
Mm.
Me performing at the highest levels was important. Making sure that I was doing the quality of work that really was reflective of me as a professional was important. But more than that, for me, I was really thrilled to see her in that position. I mean, I was so happy and so proud.
Mm.
And to not be received well and not treated well by her
Mm.
almost broke my spirit.
Wow.
Because when I look back on it, because it's still such a hurtful situation. When I look back on it, I really feel like maybe I shouldn't have levied that expectation on her.
Mm.
I I should have, and this is, there's always lessons for us
Mm.
in the journey, whether the lesson is run, whether the lesson is, know your worth. But for me, I realized that I should have maybe not expected her to be such a great boss. I should have just given her the same expectation that I give to any boss. And the fact that, and not been so hurt by the fact that she was a Black woman.
Mm.
But I think it's hard to separate ourselves from people whom look like us. And it's hard to separate from yourself from people who you believe are like you. And so when they do hurtful things, you take it personal. And so that was really hard for me because I had to really make a decision about how I was going to manage her. And there is an art to managing up, right?
Yep.
You
Right.
have to be able to manage up. And ultimately, I made the decision to save myself. My career and my aspirations were much more important than anything else, and that I was not going to be able to stay working under her and under her tutelage because it didn't offer me anything. There
Right.
was no mentorship, there was no camaraderie, there was no inside jokes, there was no we dance and when the song come on. We didn't have that, and
Right.
so ultimately that's what I was looking for. Didn't get it. And so I went and found another job. And I took a relocation. And so I did the amount of time that I needed to do for my relocation. And then I started job hunting. And 6 months later, I was back in California in a really great job and have really been happy about the road since. That was a definitive part of my journey. But it's not one that I want to repeat or redo again. And that's why your No More Mean Girls pledge resonates with me, because you get mean girled at every age, at every level, and in every space and capacity.
Yes.
And ultimately, that's what she was. She was a mean girl. That's what she chose to be. And that's not who I choose to be. And so I think if you spend too much time in people's presence, negative or positive, they rub off on you.
Absolutely.
And I didn't want that to rub off on me. I don't want people to feel far from me. I don't want Black women to feel like I'm not one of them when they walk in the door, because I am. And I think that, there's a safe space that we create for one another. I want to make sure that I'm creating that space because I understand the uniqueness of my role. And I want to make sure that folks know that I'm a whole Black person. I have the whole Black experience. I've lived my whole life as a Black woman, and that when you are with me and when you are around me, there is safety. I'm a part of your tribe, even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes or for the space of your career. I am an organic part of your tribe. And so I think, when I didn't see that, I knew, what, it's time to roll. And I will tell you, old me, younger me would have dug her heels in and been like, I can fix this. I can do this. I can make her like me. But me now, wisdom of the ages is a beautiful thing. And me now is like, listen, if there's a space that you're in and you know that it is toxic for you and it is harming your mental health, get out.
Yes.
Hold on a second. We both like, hold on a second, because I just had an epiphany as you were talking and as you were describing your circumstance and situation. It's not like I couldn't put that language into terms and say, hey, that's me. But I'm literally in that, like right now, we speak. And when I say like, there's nothing more disappointing and hurtful than to think that someone that looks like you, that is your senior, that's leadership, you expect them to, for one, respect the woman because we are alike. You know what I'm saying? Like, I see myself in her. At least you think you see yourself in me. But I mean, it's totally not that. So right now,
so I'm listening to this and I'm like, this is Natalie. I've had an experience of a past mentor. She was a mentor of mine, and then it shifted when I started to think for myself, and it wasn't always in line with her thought process. She was a great woman, did some amazing things, helping me, move up the ladder. But it was at the expense of saying Black is the only culture that we could be friends with. Any of the other cultures in the office, I was felt to believe. She made me feel like I was betraying the Black culture for being friends with another, ethnicity, because her experience was negative in the office of white people who have done something to her or kept her from certain positions and promotions. That's your experience, but it just became way too heavy for me. But I love the part where you identified that you had an expectation that she was supposed to behave and treat and support and mentor you in a certain way. And when that didn't happen, you were internalizing that. Now, I'm gonna say, I'm sorry, y'all. We got the doors is going, my ring is going
downstairs.
Off. We having some family moments around here. But when I'm gonna go on a limb and say that we're saying it is an expectation.
It is.
Now,
yes, it is.
Expectation that I'm gonna give you a free ride because you're a Black woman. No, you still step your game up and make sure that you're performing at the level that you need to be performing at. But if you're doing that, it is our job. I feel like it is my duty as a Black woman to help guide and support. I absolutely hate when people say, whether it's men or women, but mostly women, I got here by myself.
That's not true.
You did not.
It's not.
There is somebody who helped you along the way, created an opportunity, opened a door. I don't care if it's just as little as somebody retiring and making that opportunity available for you to apply for that next position. You did not.
And it's funny that you say that, because that's very true. Because I wasn't getting what I needed from my boss, there was another woman at the same level as my boss who had sat on my hiring panel, who I looked to for guidance. She was phenomenal to me the entire time that we worked together, and gave me some really great guidance, and ultimately helped me make my decision to look for another job and move on. But what I didn't share with you guys about this woman is that this woman had the job that I currently have just before me. So we remained friends. She left before I did, came to Auth0, and had a phenomenal run here. And she called me last fall and let me know that she was leaving, and she wanted me to interview for this job.
Wow.
And I was terrified. And she sat with me and worked with me and prepped me and got me ready for this job that I landed, and then has, wished me well. She's still a confidant of mine. And this woman is not Black. And so, it ultimately, I did not make it here by myself. In addition to my tribe, I've had some really, really phenomenal champions
Yeah.
who advocated on my behalf. My boss at Lockheed Martin was a woman. She was the CIO at that time of Space Systems Company, and she was a fierce, fierce advocate for me. I was her business information security officer, which is like a regional role, and I was for Space Systems Company, and then I became her chief of staff, and ultimately. The reason I became her chief of staff, because I was a little more senior than some of the other folks, is that I told her I need to be close to you so I can watch and see what you're doing and how you're doing this. And that's how I learned. And so I had a very different chief of staff job than a lot of other people had, because mine was really, yes, I was supporting her and supporting business rhythms, but I was there to learn. I was on her hip every day. We traveled together. We talked on the plane. I learned finance. I learned all these areas where I wasn't strong as an executive. I learned those. And I went from, and she, and I left the company after I left that job, but she wished me all the best, because really that's what we were preparing me for. We weren't preparing me necessarily for the next role at that company. We were preparing me for the next role, wherever that might be. And when it didn't happen there, it was no holds barred. And she gave me some of the best advice I've ever gotten in my career. And that was that, I would be nostalgic about my time at Lockheed Martin. And I was there for 9 years, and it was a significant transition in my life. And as an adult, she said, you're going to be nostalgic about being here, and all you're going to remember is the good things, but don't do that. Really, if you have to, write it down, have some holistic memories about your experiences here, both good and bad. That way, if you decide to come back one day, you remember it the way it really was. That is some of the best advice I ever got. I am very nostalgic about my time there because it was amazing, but I also understand the challenges that I had there and what it took to overcome those challenges. And so I would go back in a heartbeat, but now I would go back with a full knowledge of what my experience was like and what work I want to do to move the needle in terms of diversity and in terms of women in technology. Those are the things that I would like to do. And so when I took this job, that was a big part of it. And I realize now that one of the reasons I was hired was not just because of my technical acumen, but because of my humanity, and my authenticity as a human being, and how deeply I care about people in the organization, not as resources or employees, but as human beings. And so that is ultimately what landed me where I am. I shunned every traditional thing that they say about executives and decided to just be authentic. And that took me through, C-suite interviews, through Zoom, through panel interviews, through one-on-ones. And I just remained really, really true to who I was, because I said to myself, I have started jobs where I have decided to just break out black on them after like the third week. And that is just bad.
Yeah, I'm here.
We all do it. We all do it. We come into the interview with the fresh blowout, the curls, and our makeup's done, and then we show up on the first day of work in faux locks. So I decided,
accept me as I am.
Right.
I was like, I'm gonna go into this as I am, and if it's not the right fit, it's not a problem. I have a job, so if it's not the right fit, that's fine. But this is what you're getting. You should know what you're getting, just like I should know what I'm getting. And it has really been the best experience. I've only been there for 2 weeks, but it's been phenomenal, because I'm not at work being somebody that I'm not. I'm at work being exactly who I am.
This is amazing. So I'm learning a lot from you as well, just sitting here. And
I want to say this about the faux locks and the hair, and just real quickly. Listen, y'all, don't show up with pink hair. We have not come that far yet. We just haven't. And so, on the adverse side of that, I do want to add that, like, listen, yes, be yourself, but be clear about your intention. Because if the intention for me is, it's COVID. I can't go to the hair salon all the time. I need something protective. But also, I like the way I look like this. That was my intention. If your intention is to shock and surprise, don't be mad when people get shocked and surprised.
Right.
That's some good advice, because
we
want to say we want to be able to walk into a room and get the job based on merit. But this is the real world, is that
it's the real world.
Right. People are physically still looking at us, and Not that you can't do the same job with pink or purple hair,
but
I might give you a little side eye, and that's not just with certain races. Now, if I'm owning a Fortune 500, I might give you a little side eye too. I know that 50, I've read his book, and 50 Cent says he pays attention when people come in front of him to interview with him, because they will walk in with the saggy pants and the Timberlands and think because of the 50 Cent that they're interviewing with 50 Cent and not Curtis. Curtis needs that suit and tie to let me know that you're serious about this work. And so so that's not just something that we need to present how we present ourselves to white people. That's how we need to walk in business and want people to take it
and whatever if there's a dress code, there's a dress code.
Right.
If they say show up business casual, don't show up in a suit.
Right.
That was one of, when I was at Nike, that was one of the disqualifiers right out of the gate, is that you do not, they tell you, do not come to this interview in a suit. It tells you that. And people would come in a suit, and we would just sit there and look at them like, oh, so you don't know how to follow instructions. And, so it goes both ways. You really have to have some emotional intelligence around the process that you're in, whatever that process is, whether it's a job or it's something, it's a non-profit, whatever it is, you have to have some emotional intelligence around the process.
Right. So having gone through all of that, how does that prepare you to be a better mentor, a better friend, a better co-worker, a better boss, to not just, again, we're talking kind of like Black females, like when that one comes to you and she's under you, how did your experience is now going to help you be better at that in those areas?
I think there's a freedom when you work for me. There's a freedom of expression. There's a freedom to be who you are. There's a freedom to be your authentic self. There's a freedom to use your authentic voice when you work for me, because I am like an umbrella. And so if it's raining, you're not going to get rained on. And also, I'm going to let people know that this is a part of general norms for our culture. And so, there you have cover support in me. I'm going to have your back, but I'm also going to be really, really honest with you about the expectations. I'm not going to hold the bar higher because you are Black. I'm going to hold the bar at the same place the bar gets held for everybody else. I'm not going to tell you that you have to work twice as hard to get half as far, because I am trying to dismantle that. And so I think that, that is ultimately a part, and that was a part of my journey where I had to get to a space where I understood that I have to offer protection, and that I have to offer a safe space for Black people, but Black women in particular. And so there's that, but then there's also this, you can ask me questions and I'm going to tell you the truth. Wow. Good, bad, or indifferent. So if you ask me about my career, I'm going to tell you the truth. If you ask me how you're doing, I'm going to tell you the truth. And you may not like what I have to say to you, but that's okay. Because we want to move in honesty with one another. And I think there's a way to do that that I had to learn, because I was very, very, very cutting when I was younger. You just was going to get an answer.
So I like that you say that, because when we talk about the No More Mean Girls and the hashtag and all of that, one of our pledges is that we pledge to definitely be respectful and supportive and how we communicate with each other, because like you said, you want to be honest and truthful with one another, but there's an art to how we deliver that message in a tasteful way, right? And so, how do you speak to that?
I am, I think, innately a straight shooter. And so a lot of the times when I have to deliver, particularly to when I'm talking to other Black women, I'll let them know right out the gate, hey, are you sure you want to have this conversation with me? And what kind of feedback are you expecting? I ask them to kind of level set me up front. what kind of feedback do you like, and what kind of feedback are you expecting? Because I am going to tell you the truth.
Right.
And so if truth is not your goal, I'm probably not the best mentor for you. I'm not the best person to offer this guidance. And I will try to offer the guidance with as much care and concern as I can, because ultimately I do care. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be spending the time talking. And so, there's that. So I do try to get them to level set me and try to understand where they are, knowing that sometimes when people get to me, they're one step before an absolute breakdown.
Yeah.
And I don't want that for anyone. And so, I do try to think about that, but also I believe in accountability for yourself.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Now
that's huge.
That's huge. Now, so that was where I was going to go next. Is we have these expectations of what a mentor, what friends and bosses and supervisors and all that is supposed to be, but what is the expectation of ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
So if we want to know the truth, we can't be offended when it's given to us.
Right.
No,
we cannot.
I think the knee-jerk reaction is to be defensive or to explain, well, the reason I didn't do this, and this was because of this, and this. But if we sit for a minute in it, we have to sit in it for a minute to realize that maybe I could have done this a little differently. Maybe I could have worked a little harder on this. Did I really put my foot in this? Did I, instead of me pulling this together right before the meeting was to start, I could have probably started, a couple of days ago.
And even further than that, we are also responsible for how we let people treat us.
Say that again. Yes. Repeat that.
So we are responsible for how we allow people to treat us. And back to this boss, if you notice, I talked about her and I said she hurt my feelings, but ultimately I was responsible for an expectation that I levied on somebody that I knew nothing about. And I was responsible for ensuring that she did not damage the trajectory of my career.
Right.
I was responsible for those things, and those are the things that I could control. I can't control her.
Right.
And so we only have access to ourselves and to control ourselves. And that's why I say, I don't say accountability in the way of like, I'm trying to hold you accountable. I'm holding me accountable for myself and what I allow to happen to me and what I allow to happen in my space. And so, and yes, you can hold others accountable, but you can't hold another person accountable without also holding yourself accountable. And I will always look for what I contributed to the situation. Right. Sometimes it's nothing, but sometimes it's huge. And one of the things that I was looking at a post that I posted last year on March 9th. And I was in a divestiture. So the company I was at was sold. I did all of the due diligence work and then found out on the day of the sale that my job was sold with the company. And I didn't know that was going to happen, but I had a feeling it might happen. And so I prepared for both scenarios. And then as my company was sold, I started to try to prepare I had a team of employees who I was really concerned about their jobs. And so I was working my butt off to make sure that they had jobs. And ultimately I landed a job, but in the caveat of me accepting that job was that they hire my entire team. And they did. And that was something that I had never done before. I was terrified as I sat there and thought about what I was going to say. I told them, yes, I'm a great CIO, but I don't do this alone. I do this with a squad of people who I cannot do this without them. And so they all were hired. And, all of this was a part of the offshoot of me leaving her. And, it threw my world into peril. But I started to move with an assurance of and a certainty about what I knew about how to do this work. And other people started to see that I was really, really clear on how to do the job that I do. But during that time, also, there was a lot happening in my personal life, and I had to really stop and really sit and get good with myself and get good with what was happening. And ultimately, the post that I made on March 9th of 2020 was that I had realized that I had been coveting some things. And I said, thou shalt not covet. And I talked about what that meant to me and how I really was holding on to things that didn't belong to me, that weren't for me, that weren't destined for me nor meant for me. And I was holding them because I put more value in the companies that I worked for and in my job titles than I did myself.
Wow.
And so there were, and I also put up a post that said, stop trying to sit at tables that God would have flipped. That hit me so clearly and so concisely because that had been me up until really a year or so ago. I had not learned my lesson about coveting. I wanted the shiny thing. I wanted the title. I wanted the Fortune 100 company. That's what I wanted. That's what I chose. And I was getting exactly what I wanted. I was getting done up every which way. And, I landed at a private family owned company that was small, that had a small workforce, but a mighty impact on the industry that I was in. It was like the best known company that you've never heard of. And it was United Legwear and Apparel. And they are a licensed partner to Hurley and to Puma Kids and Skechers and Fortnite and Champion. And so we were doing all of this really great work, and they do from design to it hits the store. And I became the CIO of this, what I believed was a small job, but it was a spectacular job, a global job. And I had a whole team of people that I got to bring with me. So I didn't have to deal with do I trust this person? I had my whole squad with me. And I realized that everything that I needed had been given to me and laid before me. But I was so focused on the big company with the big title, and that I was willing to give every part of myself and my identity and my authenticity to have those things. And I learned what is meant for you, you will have it. There is no person that can stand in your way. There is no thing that can stand in your way. The things that are meant for you, you will have them. And as I got through that coveting space and really started to live selflessly and really started to commit myself to being a better human being and being more thoughtful and being more caring and being kind and really focused on the other parts of my personality, because I've always been great at work, but really trying to become this more whole person, all of these things started to fall into my lap that I wasn't expecting. And so, 5-6 months into this new job, my old mentor calls me and says, hey, are you interested? At the same time, a headhunter called me and said, hey, we've got a CIO job in Irvine that we want you to take a look at. And so all of a sudden, all these things start to fall into place that I wasn't expecting and didn't really see coming. And, 1 year later, I'm at a brand new job. It's my dream job with a company that I love and with people that I trust. And this was something that was really, it was a gift. To me to really land in a situation where I can do the work in the community. My company is really, really dedicated to diversity, to women in STEM, to Black Lives Matter, to the things that are important to me outside of work. And so that ultimately, has driven me to, I think, a really, really great space. And having this conversation, this is not something that I would have done before because it wasn't really allowed. And so I would have just said no. And I wouldn't even probably have told you why I said no. I wouldn't have said, hey, I can't. This is not allowed. I would have just, maybe said I wasn't interested. Whereas now, these are important conversations that need to be had with Black women. We need to place value on ourselves and value on our lives and value on our mental health. And we are not just job titles and companies. We are our people. I am Jameeka. And even to that, I had spent probably the last 15 years with a nickname that isn't even my nickname. My nickname is not Jamie. But when I was entering into industry from the military, Jameeka's resume wasn't getting any callbacks. And so we shortened my name to Jamie.
Wow.
And yeah. And so a lot of people know me by Jamie, but that's not my name. My nickname is actually Mika, which is normal, right? You are Jameeka, Tamika, or Shabika, you're Mika. And so my family really drove me to reverse that, because they would hear that and they would just look at me like, first of all, we don't know who that is. So they wouldn't even respond. And then I would respond.
It'd be your
You know,
people
we do.
who put you in your place
bring
quick,
you
won't
back.
they?
Who is that?
They were like, who is that? And they for real, and that's exactly, they were like, and who is that?
Yeah.
And I told them the story around it. They understood it, but not really. Like, they understood it, but they didn't accept it. And
Right.
I'm glad they didn't accept it. I'm glad that they kept cracking jokes and kept, because ultimately, again, as I started down that journey again, I was like, no, y'all gonna get Jameeka. That's what you're gonna get. You're
Right.
gonna pronounce it correctly because it's spelled phonetically, and we're gonna keep it pushing so that everybody else whose parents did like mine's did in late 70s, early 80s, really went for a unique name that they felt embodied Afrocentricity. That's the name I got, and you know, it is a gift, and you know, your name is so big of a part of your identity. To change that for somebody else,
No.
Yeah.
but I
That,
did that.
that's huge. That's huge. But that comes with growth and experience and starting to become the woman, the true woman that God intended for you to be.
Mm-hmm.
And
it comes with seniority. Look, it comes with seniority. The more senior you are, you can do what you want.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's it.
There you go. So I would say, out of all the gems, now, when we're looking at a 21-year-old to, let's say, about 25, 27, and you know, that group has a sense of entitlement sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What would you say to her? You know, and I say sense of entitlement because I can go to school, get the degree, but I still feel like I should get a 7-figure, 6-figure, 7-figure position, and you ain't worked for nothing. You know what I mean?
Right away.
Yeah, I do. And I think I would say, you know, 21 to 25 is the time for foundation building and establishing. It's the time where you are coming out of school or grad school, or your new hire. It's the time for you to establish the foundation of the beginnings of your career, whatever they are. And it doesn't mean that that's permanent either. It just means that you need to establish some sort of foundation, because if you don't do it 21 to 25, you look up 30 and your homegirl's a doctor and just bought a new house, and you're still foundation building. You're still kind of flailing around. So get committed to some things. And I don't necessarily mean work things, but get committed to some things and start building the foundations of what those are. If you're going to be a blogger, commit to that. If you're going to be a scientist, commit to that, at least for the time and the space that you know that that's what you want to do. Because if you build solid foundations, you're going to be rock solid in the long term. If you learn how to do the work, the idea that I will always be able to find a job is because of a rock solid foundation.
Yeah.
I have a work ethic. I'm dedicated. I show up on time. I am where I say I'm going to be. I answer when and that's foundation building. And you're right. There is this entitlement. There is this, I want to show up. I want to work from home. I want to show up. No. You're not going to do all that. Okay. You're not.
Yeah.
You're not going to do all that. Like, nobody's going to let you do all that. You're not even going to be able to do that as an entrepreneur. Because I think there's a misconception that entrepreneurs work less when they actually work more, a lot more than we do. And so, my husband's an entrepreneur and he's constantly burning the midnight oil. And so, but if you build the foundation, not of a specific career, but of who you are as a human being and a work ethic, that will carry you far. If you decide to change careers or change paths, that solid foundation will take you into that next path very easily, actually. But you have to do the work, and you have to be willing to do the work. If you're willing to do the work, the results will manifest. People will see in you what you see in yourself. And so that's what I would tell a young person, is that I got that foundation in the military, and it has carried me throughout the last 20 plus years. I am not afraid of hard work. I am not afraid of early mornings and late nights. I'm not afraid to do the things that other people don't want to do or cannot do. I'm not afraid to continuously learn and read and desire knowledge and be curious. You build those foundations while you are young. And if you build them while you are young, they will be the foundation of the world you create for yourself down the line.
Wow. I mean,
thank you. You just gave us 50 minutes of some greatness, girl. I absolutely love you. I don't know what took me so long to get to know
this is an opportunity for Exposed to come out west.
Right.
Yes, do come out. I would love to chat with you guys again. Love to see you and host you in California.
So we absolutely love you. We're so glad that you took the pledge.
Thank you.
And gave us all those nuggets in regards to how you climb the ladder to success. And I feel like we're not saying that there's still going to be some hiccups, some challenges.
That ladder wasn't just totally smooth. There was some deviation. There was tours. There was, I got to go back down.
I stumbled back down.
I stumbled down. I fell down. I got pushed back down. But I climbed. I continued to climb every single time I got back up.
Yes.
Awesome.
That's the key, is that you got to get back up, and how we treat one another. So Ms. Jameeka,
thank you so much. We ask that you hang back, and we're gonna close off.
So
thank
just
you
hang up.
so
Don't
much.
hang up.
Thank you. Wow,
girl.
So when we talk about,
I feel like I ain't doing enough in life.
You are.
Am I doing enough?
You are. Don't start.
But that's what it. I think when you get good people around you, they give you the energy. To continue. Our plates is full. But it somehow gives you that energy, like I can do more. I can do more.
And that's what we were able to take away from Jameeka, #Mika, not Jamie.
Not Jamie.
Not Jamie. Yes, that's something that I can take away. And I really appreciate, for one, the story. I had an epiphany while she was telling her story about a mean girl boss. And so this is why we just urge each and every last one of you to take that pledge, that challenge, the #No More Mean Girls, because you never know, you don't really think about it. And mean girlism is not just in middle school, elementary school. It is as you become an adult, elder women that should know better, but they don't.
But we're not saying if you take that pledge, you're acknowledging that you were a mean girl or are a mean girl. What we're saying is that by taking that pledge, you're saying we want to end mean girl behavior, whether it's within you in the past, currently, or someone that you may know or have experienced. So we just love Mika. She Mika now. She started off as Jameeka, but she Mika. That's home. That's the homie. And so just absolutely love those gems. You guys, stay tuned for another episode. We just gonna keep it rolling with all these dynamic women across the country.
They're phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Doing some amazing things. That's why I wanted her to drop those names of those amazing Black women.
So they know how they've contributed, because I don't care what anyone says, I'm gonna always root for a tribe. And Laverne is getting her tribe together. I'm a part of that tribe. I think tribes are necessary for you to be able to climb a ladder, and also when you fall down that ladder, because you're going. They can easily help you.
They come with the wood glue to build the stairs to get you back up.
They can help you with all of that. But we hope that you guys enjoyed Jameeka as much as we did. We're going to have her information in the show notes. And we want to say thank you so much for sitting with us. I'm Natalie Hayden.
And I'm Laverne Badger.
And we're Exposed, the podcast. Signing off, guys.
See you guys later.
Peace out.